I'm Edie, Executive Editor of Hub Culture. Very pleased to be joined by Alfie Rustom. Thanks for coming along.
Absolute pleasure.
CEO of Defend Nature Interactive, a very intriguing title.
I think the title says it all,
Yeah.
in terms of defending nature and using interactive media to achieve that goal. And it's been quite a journey getting here, but very excited to share with you some of the things we've been up to.
Okay, so we'll get to that. Tell me about your background, first of all, Alfie.
You can maybe tell I'm a Brit. I've grew up in a very working class neighborhood of Birmingham, ended up having a few brain cells and going to St. Andrews University. And they ended up giving me a scholarship, a full scholarship for a PhD in quantum physics there. And I did that for a few months and they wouldn't allow me to do what I liked. And so I went into financial technology for many, many years and deploying I jokingly say weapons of mass financial destruction.
Right.
And so some of my clients are no longer with us, RIP, and we're seeing some of that with some of the banks happening now. So that was my life for a while. And then landed in New York, September 6, 2001, a few days before 9/11. My desk overlooking the two towers. Saw pretty much everything running as the buildings were collapsing. But that was my wake-up call that what I was doing in finance wasn't necessarily the best use of my energies as a human being. And shortly after that, met a lady, her father wrote The Elephant Man. And so she got me writing. And so from The Elephant Man to Bioman, 20 years on. So that's kind of a little bit of my story there. And I've been full-time working on creating stories to help us connect with the natural world for about a decade now, and have some video games, TV series, award-winning novels out.
Interesting. So tell me about Bioman.
Bioman actually started off as a live-action feature. I had an Oscar-winning team around the project, and unfortunately, they gave me a Marvel-sized budget. I'm not Marvel yet, but we have aspirations of reaching that scale of impact and that scale of IP. So I pivoted, wrote the novel. A novel was listed by the Kirkus Reviews, the gold standard of the publishing industry, as one of the best books of the year. And then I realized as a creator, one of the challenges is, especially as a writer, how to generate revenue, recurring revenue. And so the confluence of entertainment and business was a big challenge for me, especially with a finance background. And so that's when I discovered gaming. So gaming as a way of, as a creator, I could build a business around and generate revenue that way. Trying to build a business around a story is very challenging. And I think gaming, the whole gaming revolution is fantastic because it allows me as an IP creator and now a game designer to generate revenue and build a business around it. That's kind of where we're at now. We've got our first game coming out in a few months, as well as an animated TV series to support that game coming out.
So who are the characters in this game as they relate to Bioman?
Okay, Bioman actually was a titular superhero called Bioman. His powers related with the plant world, set in a future where we've merged with technology, and so there's a lot of battles between robots and plants in the original story. And then, while I was adapting that into a feature, my female friends especially were saying, Alfie, another dude superhero.
Right.
So I made Bioman now is an acronym, Biophilic Interspecies Organization for the Management of the Anthropocene Naturally.
Wow.
If you can come up with a better one, please do, because that's the best I can do. So now it's a team of 5 superheroes, each with a power related to one of the kingdoms of life. So the original plant-based superhero, he's still very much there as leading the team, but now I've got superheroes related to each of the kingdoms of life. So it gives me a great opportunity to kind of cover the entire ecosystem. And each of them is going to be aligned with the real world cause, whether it be ocean health or regenerative agriculture, mental health, and so on. So we've kind of we've expanded the IP so that we can cover as many causes as possible within a single IP.
Interesting. And tell me about the game and how you're working both with these 5 kingdoms as well as...
Absolutely. So the game is actually focused on the Animalia kingdom. And so in the story world, we have humans mutating into animals, and they're persecuted in the real world, so that they run off and escape into the bioverse where they can come together and dance together. They love to dance and they love to farm. And so the first game is going to be focusing on their passion for dancing, and so it's going to be a dance battle game. So we're going to be releasing 10 different species, and then we're going to generate characters from them by breeding these species together. Now, these species I've picked from the World Wildlife Extinction List, endangered species list. So we're looking to raise awareness around the biodiversity crisis, and get people supporting these less, and some of them will be well-known species like, you know, tigers and what have you, but we'll also be looking at, you know, lesser known species, certain types of newt, certain types of salamander, you know, that's across the whole, across the 5 kingdoms of
So
Mali.
I can create a tiger nander? Is that
You
the
can
idea?
Absolutely. Well, they're going to each avatar is created of 10 body parts. Each body part is going to be bred from a different species, and for the game, each body part has different stats associated with it. So you can start breeding and strategizing. Hey, if I breed my salamander character with my tiger character, how is that going to perform on the dance floor?
Got it.
So there's a whole strategy around that. If you're familiar with CryptoKitties, which is a big...
Just remind our listeners about CryptoKitties.
CryptoKitties was a kind of a breakout hit back in 2018. It's the first NFT game where you could breed NFTs to create new NFTs. So it's the first one to actually have genetics in the NFTs. And so our avatars have genetics. So when you breed them together, there's a genetic algorithm working its magic in the background to produce a unique avatar just for you. So every character is going to be unique.
I love the idea. Is there any evidence that playing a game with characters who are endangered species will change people's actions to do something in the real world that will help protect these species?
It's a great question. I don't know yet. Admittedly, the NFT projects I've looked at have not been successful around animal welfare, especially. So that's why we're leading with the game. And we're putting the messaging as kind of a contextual thing. And so people, as they play the game, they'll connect with their characters. And so my theory of changes is that they'll connect with the characters, learn about the species, and over time, they'll, you know, and again, I don't know yet, but that's the theory. And so we're out there testing that.
Interesting. All right. When can we expect this on our phones, or is it a console?
It'll be, you know, unfortunately, the app store is not necessarily friendly towards blockchain technology. So we're going to be deploying it on a browser-based game. So you can play it on your device, you can play it on your PC. And so that's where we're. And then we're building out the metaverse, which is going to be an agricultural farming adventure, which I designed with the guy. If you take Farmville, you make it regenerative, organic permaculture. That'll be our MMO game, our metaverse. And so I designed that with the guy who designed Farmville. So, you know, so we've been fortunate enough to be able to work with and attract some of the best minds in gaming and entertainment to work on the Bioman IP.
Interesting. Okay, so the regenerative farming game will encourage people to think about the soil differently, think about how we eat, think about our food differently. All right. And And then how would that reverberate, do you hope, into the real world?
Well, the end goal is, you know, the primary thing we're doing is raising awareness and providing opportunities in-game for people to buy products and services around that have been regeneratively produced. But eventually that game will become a Pokemon Go style, immersed in the real world. So now the game becomes an Imagineering tool for people to create green and see what their world would look like, greenified. And then the dream is to work with philanthropy to make some of those green visions a reality. And I'm particularly passionate around food security, food, especially in urban food desert neighborhoods where communities don't have access to fresh produce. And so having people come together and grow food together, I think, is very powerful. And this country, during the Second World War, 40% of the fresh produce in this country was generated through victory gardens. And so they're, you know, talking to some friends of mine at Kiss the Ground about collaborating and reactivating that movement that has been proven. So we know there's a model out there to reconnect people with the natural world and with their food systems. And I think one of the other issues we're facing is the mental health crisis. And I think some of that is, the data is very compelling that if we spend more time in the natural world, we just feel better. And that's just psychologically, but also plants are releasing aerosols. They're very, especially in a forest, they're forest bathing, getting out there, absorbing all of the beautiful things that nature is releasing out there is I think super important for a natural way of healing.
Interesting. Alfie, fascinating conversation. Very delighted to have met you here in Hub Culture Los Angeles. We look forward to seeing the next steps for you. Thank you.
Thank you.